Hey everyone, welcome to Everyday Fi, the show that explores the lives and stories of everyday people in the financial independence community. Today's episode is part 2 with my friend Julie. We chat about her journey to financial independence and how post-layoff she became passionate about managing her finances and soon delved into the FIRE community. She shares her experience of becoming Barista-Fi, where she balances minimal part-time work, planning group travel excursions with her investment income to sustain a flexible lifestyle. We recorded this back in November, so some of the content about her group travel may be different than her website, so make sure to check it out in the show notes. We'll be right back with my conversation with Julie after this. So I'm curious how you came to the financial independence community. And I know you were like, okay, I need to get my finances right, et cetera, after the layoff. But when and how did you find the FIRE movement?
Gosh, I don't really know if I remember how I found it. I think I did get a financial advisor, which was good for me to start with, although I have since broken up. I had broke up with him not too long after, just because I had become so hungry for all this information, learned how to do a lot of things on myself, and thought, I don't want to pay you for this and have you take such a big chunk out of what I'm earning here. I don't really know how, but once I got in the orbit, it was like a magnetic field that I just started consuming these books and the different blogs and everything, and haven't really been able to stop.
What book or blog stood out to you the most?
I think everybody talks about A Simple Path to Wealth, and that's just really what I recommend to everybody. But I'm also the Die with Zero concept is something that I like to sort of guide people towards as well, because I think especially as Americans, because we do have a lot of scary things in our future in terms of what's healthcare going to cost, and all of these questions that we have, there is that tendency to be really fearful, and for I think a lot of people to maybe unnecessarily put off or keep on changing the goalpost maybe. I really think so many people probably could retire earlier if they weren't so bogged down with this fear of, will I have enough? And and that makes me just a little bit sad because I see the wealth everywhere and I'm like, but what is your free time worth? What is your mental space and your creativity and your lower stress and your time with your family? And, what is that worth? I think people have the tendency to work a lot more than they really need to just because of the way our society has sort of set us up.
Yeah, for sure. I mean, you even said it earlier that your identity was so closely tied to your job that when the layoff happened, it was like even worse. It's so common. And it's something that I think a lot of people who retire at the traditional age run into bouts of depression because of things like that, where they're like, I don't know who I am anymore without this job. And I don't know if I matter anymore because I don't have this job, because I don't have these people relying on me like they did at my job. And I think one thing to eradicate that fear is to create a purpose outside of a job, because then it's a little bit easier to leave it. And even if you just say, my purpose is just me existing as I am and who I am, is fine too, which is kind of what I do. Cause I've never really identified with this, like, my job is my purpose. Like, I've really just never seen that. But when somebody asks me, what is your purpose? I'm like, me, Megan, like, I'm my purpose. I don't know if that sounds selfish, but because I've flitted between a lot of different things that I've loved doing and being, but it's always come down to me. It's me. And I think if we're able to do more of that, maybe we could get away with that. It also might just be the way that I grew up. Like, I grew up moving around a lot. So we were never tied to one place. And so I was always unmoored. And the only person who was a regular in my life was myself because I even lived with different family members, right? I didn't grow up with the same parent. I even changed parents. I even didn't have my sibling sometimes in the household. It was always just
Mhm.
me. And so that might be why I feel that way. But yeah, it's something that I almost feel lucky that I grew up that way, but also
Yeah.
unlucky. I don't know.
Well, it provided you like a different perspective. And I think, different perspectives is what we need because if we're surrounded by, society and, previous generations, especially telling us like, it's your duty, it's your responsibility towards your family, towards your community, towards your employer, that if you quit, oh, you're selfish and you're shirking your responsibilities, or you're not fulfilling your obligations. You should persevere and don't give up. And so there's such stigma that if you quit, you're a failure. And not only that, but that we have nothing to offer except for our manual or emotional or cognitive labor. No, there's a lot we can offer people just, like you said, being around. And it doesn't have to be exchanging labor for money and what we bring to our family in terms of material goods. I'm a quitter and I'm proud of it. And quitters do win. If we win back our time and our mental peace and our health and emotional well being, why isn't that celebrated? Why is it celebrated to work yourself into an early grave than it is to escape those obligations and actually take your life into your own hands? That's what I want to know.
My answer is capitalism. That humans are only valuable in a capitalistic society if they are producing something. Yeah. And they have to have jobs to make money to spend the money in the capitalist society. So,
I know. We're such hamsters in a wheel, aren't we?
I know. Yes, we are. And yeah, we don't have to go on that tangent, but that's my answer to that is capitalism. Y'all know how I feel about that. Okay. So now that you're on the other side of we talked about this before we recorded that you have some side hustles that you're doing. Can you tell us what those are and what kind of got you into them?
Yeah, so right now I consider myself barista fire. When I quit, I really didn't do anything. I didn't do anything that was income producing really for probably at least the first year or so. I was still writing my blog. I think anybody who is a blogger knows that doesn't really make you any money and it just costs you money. So I don't really even count that. But I was still out there, I was still being productive in my own way, in my own definition of being productive. And I did take up some flexible recreational employment about a year and a half ago. And that was born of a couple things. So, one, I was doing all this amazing traveling and writing about it. And I had, people coming in and say, like, I want to replicate your itinerary, or I want to do what you did in that country, or whatever pictures I had up there. They were like, I want to be that person. And then I had another, like, subset of people that were like, "You look really fun. I wanna travel with you. Can you bring me with you? Take me with you." And so, I was kind of exploring how to do that, like, okay, well, that would supplement my income to be able to book travel for people and to have group travel, and that would help me as well. So, I ended up partnering with a travel agency, and it was a really symbiotic partnership that has enabled me to do group trips, but also really monetize my expertise and all my experience as I've been traveling to these kind of remote destinations and going on these experiences that other people, are attracted to when they see maybe my write ups or my photos, which is still, I hesitate to say I'm even really fully employed because one, I'm an IC, and also two, I choose my hours, I choose what I do. It's really all up to me and group trip, where do I want to go? That's how I plan and that's how I spend my time. So I really only take on clients or itineraries that I really want to. Cuz the bottom line is still, I didn't just quit my job to get another job. I quit to have the freedom and the flexibility and to be able to be in whatever country I want to be. And so today, that being said, how Barista Fire works for me in concept or in practice, my spending money comes from a combination of my withdrawals, earnings from past years and compounded interest and dividends, and then the income I earn now, which is because it's travel, it's also completely all over the place, depending on, who my clients were that month or where they traveled to. And so it really varies on a month to month basis how much, or even maybe more of a quarterly basis, how much I have to pull out and then how much is coming in. And I'm also sort of still getting into my groove since it's only been a year and a half. But yeah, I consider myself barista fired in that respect.
Yeah, I would love to get to that stage. That's actually the stage that my partner and I want to get to. Not where we're group traveling, but the barista fire thing where we're each working like part time somewhere. Like he would want to work at a climbing gym and I might want to work at an art museum, which is both our passions. Yeah. And that's our aim. So I love that you're doing that. And I was wondering if you're able to sustain the lifestyle that you have on just your investments, or do you kind of need this side hustle as well? Or could you just say, "You know what? I don't wanna do this anymore."
So, yes and no. Yes and no, because after now 4 years nomadic, I have come up with a lifestyle that works best for me. And that means I am splurging. That means if like I want to do that sunrise Serengeti hot air balloon ride, I'm going to do it because if you're in Kenya, you might as well. I've seen other people, other bloggers do this where they are pinching all those pennies and that's just not me. Like we've talked about this earlier in the podcast. It's about making choices for yourself. And so I've already kind of been through all these exercises. I'm still going to go get my like Botox once a year and stuff. So that stuff costs money. Could I sustain this without an extra income source? But then I would really be sacrificing more than I'm willing to sacrifice. And I feel really lucky that I found something that is fulfilling to me, that is really flexible, that is really kind of dependent on how far I want to take it, that allows me to kind of have some of those extra splurges and those extra amazing experiences that maybe I would have said no to because it would have been a little too outside of my budget. So, but that being said, my income is still really low. I purposefully keep it low. There's things I could do to make more money, but one, I want to preserve my time. And two, I also am trying to stay in that magic tax bracket where you don't really pay anything because, that's really where you get the most bang for your buck, so to speak. So I'm really kind of conscientious of that as well.
Yeah, that's awesome. What kind of people usually book your group travel? Is it like, do you have to? Because before we started recording, just so people know, is Julie mentioned that she wrote an ebook on taking a sabbatical. So, Julie, does that mean that only people who can take like a month off can travel in your group travel, or is it for a short time, like a week?
Yeah, so all my trips are really designed to sort of fit the American PTO limitations. I think the shortest trip I've had so far was 7 days. The longest that I've had is 13 days. And, it's designed to be attainable. Like I have trips of all different price points, and it's usually dependent on the country. Like Egypt is a fairly low, not very expensive country. That trip is in October. It's actually women only. And that trip starts at 15.99. Iceland is an expensive country. So that group trip starts higher than that. That one starts at 37.99 and that one's 9 days. So these trips are really designed to kind of fill the spectrum of wherever people are at. And it's meant to give them a taste. Not everybody can become a nomad. Not everybody can just quit their job or take a career break or take a sabbatical, but they want to appreciate some of the amazing side effects that you get from traveling and sort of that good momentum that you get from that. But in some cost saving measures, like in a group, you have the safety and security and the socialization of being in a small group. And you also have the benefit of an itinerary that's fully baked with guides and all these other inclusions. So far, I've held 4 group trips and I have 3 more scheduled, actually, maybe 4 more by the time this one comes out. And the people that have joined me have been readers, subscribers, followers. Some of them are people that I've met on my travels. Some of them are just friends, that like, hey, this looks awesome. I want to come with you. And it's always a fun little question to sort of ask. So, how did you find me? How did you find this trip? Somebody told me about it, or I was getting your email list, or I saw you on Instagram. And so it really attracts mostly, I would say, all like-minded people. I've had ages, 30 up to 70s on my trips. And the one thing that everybody has in common is that sense of curiosity, that sense of adventure. They want to experience an amazing destination with people, but maybe they don't want to wait around for people to join them, their people to join them. So they just want to go and make friends on the way. And, those people are really the kind of people that are attracted to my trips. They're not, finance focused or anything like that, but I'm on the trip and, there's plenty of time to talk and drill down on anything. So I love doing that and just kind of hearing everybody's differing life stories.
Yeah, that sounds really incredible. And honestly, when you were talking about Egypt in October, I have been dying to go to Egypt and I'm a woman and 15.99 isn't so bad. So
Yeah.
I might be like, send me that link.
I will send you the link.
Oh,
Yeah.
please.
Come on over. Let's do it.
This is the thing. Like I also kind of have a little bit of a travel bug. It's funny because I have warring desires in my life right now where my partner and we're having I talked to you about this the last time that we talked that we're having fertility issues and so we're kind of going on that path. And so it's kind of that family planning and you kind of have to stay in one place and I don't know if I'll be pregnant in the next year or even if I'll be able to fly. But on the other hand, I'm like, but I want to travel as much as possible because if I'm going to have a family, it's going to be a lot harder with like little kids. Like obviously eventually
Yeah.
travel with your kids, but with little kids, kind of harder, right? And so I'm kind of like, which one do I want to do right now? So,
Yeah. Hey, I have flexible cancellation policies, so
no, thanks, no. That's
Mm.
no. And actually that begs the question, like, so the price that you have in there, is that all inclusive or do the people who sign up have to buy like plane tickets or is there any expense outside of that or is that everything?
It's basically all the ground aspects of the itinerary, so international airfare not included, but as part of the itinerary, and I'll speak to Egypt in this case. It's the hotels, it's the transportation between the different cities on the itinerary. It's a lot of the historical sites, the entrance fees. It's professional guides who speak the language, who know what they're doing. They know all the different elements of the different locations. And there's quite a few meals that are included. I think there's some optional activities and some additional meals depending on how much people want to eat what they want to eat and want to have different budgets for that kind of thing. So there are some additional expenses that it varies by the person. And then of course international airfare like I said is not included, but everything pretty much on the ground, enough to get you in a really good place. And then you're, just responsible for your own incidentals, really, and travel insurance.
Yeah, that's pretty good. That's a good deal.
It's meant to be attainable,
Yeah.
Let's make it easy. There's so much that you get out of travel that I really just want to share that with more people and make sure that they know it's in their reach because like we even kicked off the beginning of this episode, people have this misconception that travel's got to be expensive. It doesn't have to be. Sure, there are trips that are expensive, there are destinations that are expensive, but if budget is a factor, you can do some amazing travel at a more acceptable price point. And, to anyone who's listening to this, I'm also happy to work on some destination that I haven't mentioned. So just let me know.
Yeah. And of course, we're going to put all of these links in the show notes. I'm not going to leave y'all hanging. If you want to book with her, of course, we're going to make sure that's all there. Yeah. And maybe if you want to join us in Egypt in October.
You better come, girl.
Oh, I really want
I
to. Because like, so my first career, as many of you know, was art history, right? And a big part of your art history education starts with Greek, Roman, Egyptian art. It all just starts there, right? And so I always really loved Egyptian art and I actually wanted to go into it. And then when I learned that I had to learn like several languages, I was like, okay, never mind. But I always really enjoyed that art and it's one of my favorite wings of the Met in New York. And yeah, and I always thought that I might not be able to go to Egypt because I think the last time that I asked somebody about traveling there, I think it was like 2007, and they mentioned that it was dangerous at that time. I don't remember why. It was a while ago. And so I was put off on that. But I'm like, oh, this is like a planned trip. And so this would feel way more comfortable. And yeah, so it takes that barrier away, right? When you are able to hook into a group that's already doing this. If you're able to hook into a group that's all doing the same thing and they're all kind of, navigating this new experience together, I think that kind of connects you to other people in that way, no matter what age or ethnicity or gender they are, right?
Yeah, so I'll just speak to I brought women to Morocco, and my last all women's trip was to Morocco, and lots of the girls didn't know each other. Lots of the girls didn't even know me. They just only followed me or read my blog, and we had like 30s up to 70. We had the most beautiful joining. Like I was almost like happy, like proud mama, because like those 2 became best friends. And it was like we had people of all different ages, all different like ethnic backgrounds, but people that didn't know each other at all. And somehow I'm like watching all these magical friendships form and they're all embracing the culture and all just curious and asking questions. And I'm like, this is exactly what I wanted. This is exactly what I was looking for in terms of a group is that everybody was open minded and just ready to come with their heart wide open. And one of the pieces of feedback I got was like, Morocco was nice, but being together, all the hugs, all the laughs, all the like things we learned, that was the most special thing about the trip, and that kind of feedback is, that makes me feel so good." So, actually, one of the girls on that trip was like, "I really wanna go to Egypt. Will you do a trip to Egypt?" And so I'm like, "Yeah, sure," like, "I wanna go to Egypt too. That'll be the next one." And so, it was kind of her feedback that enabled this trip, and now I have a handful of ladies booked and a handful of spots left. So, would love to have you, Megan.
Yeah, I
Come
was gonna say
join
one of
us.
those spots is mine. One of those spots is mine. No, I really do
Awesome.
want to. Yeah, I'm gonna have to look at my savings and see if I can't like square that away. I'm gonna ask you details like after we get off here because I don't want to
Okay.
bore people with more details, but awesome. Another thing that I like to talk about with people who are on my show is in your current life, like today, what your current struggles and wins are, because I feel like we can learn from, kind of some day to day struggles that everybody in our community might be dealing with. And if you want to share about something you're going through and maybe any, I mean, people might even be able to reach out and help you figure it out. And then, of course, I want to know wins as well, because we want to know what everybody in our community is winning at. So, yeah, let's start with your any current challenges or struggles you're going through right now.
Okay, I'll start with one struggle that's a little bit more like big picture, and then another one that's like logistical that I just need like somebody give me instructions. So, the more big picture, sort of ethereal one of them that is always on my mind is this like hustle culture. And as much as I try to get out of that trap, and I know like in my heart and in my mind, like recreation, enjoyment is more important than the hustle. And do what brings you fulfillment versus what makes you money, or even what makes you feel busy, whether it makes you money or not, it doesn't make you feel busy. So there were so many decades that I spent doing what I was supposed to be doing and all the programming we've received. And especially when I quit my first job and I was like, what do I do? Like it was different from the time I got laid off because then I was like, who am I? But when I quit my job, I was a little bit like, what do I do with all this time? And a little kind of like swimming in open water. But I think this is just something I'm always gonna struggle a little bit because I'm one of those overachiever, like perfectionist people. And, I'm like, I better post on social media. I better think about my next blog. And while I like look back and think sometimes like I'm not working, but I'm doing something, like I'm doing something that takes a lot of my mental energy. So I don't really know how we are going to define that. And I have to really force myself a little bit to put the phone down or stop trying to measure my productivity or my output. So I guess I have no words for that besides I know a lot of people struggle with this, and it's just something that I'm trying to be cognizant of and finding the right balance of because I still have a little business to run. So I have to do something, but I'm just trying to figure out how to work smarter, not harder with all these things I put on my own plate. But when people say, when you have different bloggers that are like, I don't have a job, and I'm like, are you paying attention to all the work that you're doing with your like, well, you're doing a lot of stuff. So you kind of have to count that somewhere, right? Because you're not fully unplugged. You're not fully just focused on recreational time. That's something people need to be honest about and realize, draw your own lines, and I'm trying to draw some better lines myself.
I need to draw some lines because I think what's hard for me is like, if I could choose anything, I would just do my podcast all the time. That's what I would do. But it doesn't make me any money. I'm in a place where I still have to make money. And so I have to balance something I want to do with the thing that I have to do. And then I start to overcommit. And so, like this week, I have 3 podcast recordings, and that is technically overcommitting, even though those are what I want to do. But things have to go by the wayside because I also have a job, because I can't schedule them during like my job hours. And so I'm not going to be going to the gym as much this week as I normally do. And it's because something had to give. And it can't be my job because my job pays me. And so it's like,
Yeah.
it's so irritating, but I don't know how else to balance this because people are like, "Oh, just schedule less interviews." And I'm like, "I don't want to," because I love doing it because I love it. It's like one of the highlights of my week. I mean, the only time when I don't love it is when I'm at capacity, like mentally. There's just some days where I'm like, I can't be present enough for this conversation, and so I need to maybe reschedule. But this is what I would rather be doing, and that's why I added ads to my podcast because then I was like,
Oh,
maybe that could bring something in. And hopefully it doesn't annoy people too much, but it's just this is what I'd rather be doing. So what I'm trying to say is I'm with you. I did try the Instagram thing for a while and I freaking hated it. So I stopped doing that.
I mean, it's all about the mental well-being, right? And if you're in a place that you're like, "Hey, I'm cool with that." I need to get into a place and sure, there are some changes that I've made that like, I used to blog pretty much every week, and now I'm maybe every other week, maybe every 3 weeks when I put out a new written blog because I'm usually much more active on social and I'm exploring different formats. So I kind of was like, "This ain't ideal," but there's so much going on that you have to draw the line.
Yeah,
Yeah.
exactly.
And I guess my other struggle, I don't know how to do my taxes. Like, I don't think I'm doing a good job with them because you're a nomad. I'm a low income nomad. I have temporary Mexican residency. That doesn't really have a big factor on anything because I still get paid in US dollars, but I'm also on ACA and I have a business and I haven't quite met the whole like you're outside of the country for 331 days yet. But it's approaching. I'm like, should I be tracking something with that? Like, I have these snippets of stuff I should be aware of. And oh, yeah, you have the investment income and just all this stuff to sort of track and try to stay in the range you need to stay in. And then, the LLC throws a wrench into things. So I'm kind of getting to the point where I'm like, I probably need to hire somebody, but I don't know how to find somebody who can like specialize in all of these weird things that I have going on. So maybe somebody in the community here has a suggestion.
Okay, what are your current wins right now?
We kind of touched on this a little bit. Not all, we didn't get all the way there, but you just mentioned that you have ads coming into your podcast. I got my first payout after 7 years of blogging. I got my first ads payout of $100. So does that count? I mean, because really, you can't expect to make real money, right? But I think as humans, we think about all of our failures or all of our mistakes, and we emphasize them so much more than we emphasize our wins. So, I guess I would just like to talk about how much I do really love doing these group trips. And every time I book somebody on a group trip, I'm like so happy because one, being able to bring people along on the ride, whether it's in one of the group or even just by planning to travel individually, but also it's all good for me to just gain more destination knowledge in all of these places. And I mean, the most exciting thing I have going on is that I'm going to Africa for 45 days in January and February. So I'm bringing some people to Kenya for a 13-day trip. Then I'm doing Tanzania, Zimbabwe, Botswana, Namibia, and South Africa. And the whole thing, when you put it all together, some of it's groups, some of it's kind of DIY. But when I put it all together, it ends up being like between 40 and 45 days. So I would not be able to have that kind of trip unless I didn't have a real job. There's a lot of things we just don't really celebrate, and we should celebrate the small things and things that just make us grateful, or, it's small for some people, big for other people, but celebrate all the things, and recognize all the things. I think is an important thing to remember.
Yeah, I absolutely agree. And I will also be celebrating the $100 that I potentially make for my ads. Actually, my ads are probably going to be like $20 after the first 3 months, but that's okay. It's still a celebration. You're getting paid to do what you love, and that's awesome. Yeah. All right. So we are basically at the end of our time, but before we leave, can you leave the audience with a life hack, recommendation, or learning?
Yeah, I don't know if you can call it a life hack, right? But maybe just a new way of thinking or a way to flip the script is usually we are like, how much can I make? How much can I spend? And, we start along that path, like looking for more, looking for that promotion, looking for that next step, that bigger, well, now it's time to upgrade, whatever. I think about it from the opposite direction with like, how little can I work? How little do I have to work to maintain my lifestyle? How little can I work so that I'm enjoying my time? And I think that's like a little bit of an evolved way to think about it and to do it. And it's the opposite of what we've all been told. So I would maybe encourage people to think about their life that way instead of how many more hours, how many more dollars, a little bit like just how many do I need to achieve what I want? And then fill the rest with the stuff that actually brings you the joy and the fulfillment, and things will change for you pretty fast.
Yeah, they will. That's amazing. This is great advice. I love it. All right. So we are at the end of our time, but how can people reach you if they'd like to learn more or reach out to you or go on one of your trips?
Yes, and please do check me out on my website, juliedevivre.com, and that is spelling the French way, so JuliedEvivre.com. And I'm on social media, facebook.com/Julie DeVivre and Instagram at Julie B. Rose. And there's a lot of info on my website, a lot of stories and personal anecdotes. I also wrote an ebook for sale on how to take a sabbatical. So that is pretty cheap. It's out there for purchase. And then, of course, all the information on my group trips and my travel services are on there as well. And ways to contact me. So I like to say my DMs are open. If there's I get a lot of great feedback, but a lot of my blogs actually come from people who ask questions. So ask me a question if there's some information you can't find, and either I'll send it to you or I'll be like, hey, that's a great idea. Definitely always happy to kind of connect with people and hear your stories as well, and just be a source of encouragement or a source of information, whatever works.
Yeah, fantastic. Thank you. Well, it was great to have you on the show. I had a great time talking to you and learning about your life and travel, and I can't wait to see you in Egypt. because I'm totally going.
Woohoo! It's a
Yeah.
date. I'll see you then. I really appreciate you having me on, Megan, and I hope it was useful for everybody. And look forward to connecting with y'all.
Yeah, sounds good. Thanks.
Thanks for listening to the Everyday 5 podcast. If you're loving the show, here are some things you can do. Number 1, subscribe in your favorite podcast player and share the show with your friends and family. Number 2, please leave a review. I'm always looking for ways to improve the show. Number 3, check out my website, everyday-fi.com, where you can listen to all the episodes and leave comments for myself and the guest. Number 4, if you're interested in sharing your own financial independence story, you can find a submission form at everyday-fi.com/podcast. And finally, number 5, join my Patreon membership for only $5 a month at patreon.com/everyday5podcast. This is a one-woman show, so every little bit counts. See you next time as we continue to go down the path to financial freedom.